It starts with a question. Where's your time going? If you mapped your magic, could you keep it flowing? Automation's not just apps on a screen, it's choosing to move with a rhythm unseen. It's the way that you breathe when the work gets thick, the mental release when a pattern can stick. It's conscious design that remembers your needs, a soft kind of structure that waters your seeds. From workflows that whisper you're safe to expand to rituals coded by your own hands. This ain't about hustle or perfect routines, it's making more space for the moments between. So call it a system or a sacred repeat. We're syncing your brilliance with tech at your feet. Let's build something steady that frees up your light, automate wisely, and flow into flight. Today, I want to talk about something so near and dear to my heart that is such a big part of the contagious medicine that my position provides to people. So, if you're new here, I am so Aquarian. I have an Aquarius Sun, Aquarius Jupiter, Aquarius Mercury, and I attribute this signature, this part of my chart, in big part to my relationship with tech that I could call obsession, and maybe there's some unhealthy pattern there. But most of the way that I look at it is that it's almost akin to a beloved relationship. I feel so connected to the potential of technology. Actually, I have to make sure and watch. I'm really into things like Black Mirror or tech horror, things that help to mitigate my delusional optimism in this space to remind me about some of the concerning sides of it. But I somewhat digress. What I want to talk to you about today is the way that I relate to the idea of automation that is rooted so much more deeply than just around tech tools and really comes from a way that I metaphorically, really aptly connect my understanding of where we're coming from to automate properly, effectively, efficiently, and where we're coming from when we're really consciously, intentionally, precisely doing inner work around our habits, the way that our mind works, and the way that we deliberately embrace our growth through the evolution of our mind, what's possible for us, and then how we actually show up in an action oriented way based on the changes that we want to make on ourselves. I'm talking seemingly pretty broadly, but I just want to frame the scope here of what I want to achieve in today's episode, which is to help you understand the bridge between something that you likely already embrace internally to the external business oriented workflow way that we automate and how similar those are. Because for those that are tech avoidant, tech averse, tech hesitant, having this bridge really helps to embrace tech and automation as a natural outflow of a process that you're probably already obsessed with as a growth oriented person. My hope is that after making this connection for yourself, you will embrace tech and automation, specifically the more tech grounded automation version of automation, through a bigger picture receptivity to the value of it so that you can get the most out of it, so that you can free more of your time, more of your energy, more of your attention and bandwidth toward other, hopefully income generating things inside of your business, creative pursuits that might bridge business and personal, and of course, leisure stuff, what you actually want to focus on, why you're doing all of this, your people, your family, your hobbies, travel, whatever it is. So let's dive in. When I think about automation, I'm not just thinking about tech, even though that is such a intimate part of it for me, which I know is probably strange to say for most people, but it really does feel that way. And it's part of why now with AI, it's like I actually get to be in relationship with it in such a deeper way. But where that initially stemmed from, before there were AI tools, before there were all of these automation tools, is really a love for awareness, growth, transformation, what's possible when we really look consciously behind the curtain at what is otherwise unconscious of what's running the show, what thought processes are happening internally that are associated with the things that we do externally, the habits that we reenact over and over again, and being able to go inside, look, and be like, what's actually running the show here? And then consciously, intentionally, deliberately architecting, almost like a coder, how we actually want those processes to be. Just like with automation, with our tech, on our screens, in our computers, or on our phones, there's a process that happens where first it's a little bit grueling. First, it takes time and extra presence and effort to be able to look at, see, identify, articulate for ourselves what is actually going on. And then when we identify something that we want to tweak or optimize or refine, it's not easy at first, right? Things that are hardwired, things that are really established habits, it's hard at the beginning. It takes a lot more effort to shift those, to interrupt the pattern and be able to do something differently, to show up differently. However, eventually you do it enough times and then it actually becomes easy again. It becomes second nature. For me to describe this, you're like, yeah, duh. That's how it works when it comes to rewiring beliefs, when it comes to your growth path, your transformation internally, that then you're able to show up with a different character. Your character is the sum of your habits. You start showing up as a different kind of person. Different things become possible because you did that initial work that takes time and might be uncomfortable and feels like you have to tread through it a little bit. But you do that knowing that on the other side, it's going to be easier. It's going to feel more effortless, more second nature. It's like we go into our unconscious to consciously do that work so that then our unconscious can just run on autopilot for us based on those things, those ways that we deliberately tinked and tweakered. Tweaked and tinkered. But you may not be as familiar with or as willing to embrace that process when it comes to your workflows. So, this episode partly piggybacks on an episode a few back on SOPs. If you haven't listened to that one, that's a narrower focus, a particular piece of what I'm talking about here that is ultimately a mindset thing that then we implement in a more structured way for the workflows of our business. What I'm talking about today is just a broader scope of that same idea. The same way that we just talked about how it works to change things within you, to shift your behaviors in the world and in your business. So too, does it take work and time and effort that maybe you've had resistance to get really intentional about how you want your workflows to run so that then you can automate them, make them more automatic through tech tools that do them for you. But first, you have to go through that process of the design, the intentional design, which often looks like going with a magnifying glass, the same way that you would do around your beliefs or patterns or habits, at what's actually going on here, what's working, what's not working, what could be refined, what is less than ideal. And so that points away to what the most ideal or efficient workflow is. And of course, it's also always a work in progress. But that first pass, that first willingness to finally look at the thing and see how it's been working unconsciously, how you would like to design it consciously. All of that work needs to be done before then, even embracing, maybe researching what tools are possible or available, and then how to implement your vision, your design in a way that it is repeatable through a tech tool that is there to support that process, of which there are so many now. The reason that I'm really unpacking this part of it is in us connecting the dots of what actually has to be done, what the process is, to then what it makes possible, the freedom, the ease, the liberation of your bandwidth, your time, your energy, your mental load is so worth it. But it's not just that. It's not just that it is necessary and important as a prerequisite to getting the tech systems set up in your business that are going to liberate you. You have to go through this process that is similar to the process that you have to go through to do the inner work around shifting anything and rewiring yourself to be able to see a different side of you, a different version of you, different capacity from you. So too is that necessary for your tech stuff. So this is something I actually love. I hope you're meeting me here on some level. My intention here is that probably you have not gotten to this point with tech where you really love it, but you can probably think of a time or example that you've either embraced this process in your own transformation or in a relationship. I don't know how intentional your current or previous relationships have been, but you've likely either experienced or heard examples from other people of relationships that are really intentional. My husband and I, we do couples therapy. We also do check-ins when we are not in that container. We try to do it weekly. Sometimes we don't stick to it, but we create this space to do exactly what I'm talking about. And there is such magic in that intentionality, in the willingness and carved out time to intentionally design what matters to you. So whether it's your relationships, yourself, your business. When it comes to your business, though, the tech tools are such a key piece. It's the difference between, because obviously you have to embrace tech in some way. You have to have some kind of social media presence. There are tools that in this day and age you can't avoid. And if you've been orienting toward them as an obligation that you would rather not have to do, as a must or a should instead of a get to, that's part of the purpose of this episode, is to not just reframe, but open your mind and open a portal of possibility for you, that when you actually engage it like I'm talking about right now, it doesn't become something you wish you didn't have to do. It becomes something you get to do as part of your being creator of your business and embracing that role, co-creator with the universe, however you want to look at it. But it's the way that we get super intentional with how we want it to go, both back end, but also front facing customer experience. You get to go into the design first. And this is a big part because I know that not everyone is as tech obsessed as I am. There's not as much love there for some people yet. One of the ways that I support this process is that first, just get in the visionary space. And that's the automation mindset part of it. Before you even touch the tech or think about the tools, get into that visionary space that is, if you are a self-employed person, if you are a visionary, if you are a creative person, being in that space is the first step, the fun step before actually touching the tech tools. And of course, if we bring in magic, witchcraft, these realms, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about just being really intentional, tuning in with your visions, your desires, and your creativity around how you want this stuff to flow, how you want your workflow to go, how you want your customer to experience your work when they work with you, and really getting into that space of intentional design. Because then from there, it's super and easy and obvious-ish. I can help with that. But once you know what you need, once you know what the design is that you want to be able to run as efficiently as possible, it becomes much easier to then find exactly what the tools are and to know exactly what to plug into them to support that. Getting back to our mind metaphor, I love to bridge that with tech, that realm in general, just in how we understand and think about it. I've talked about this before. Your conscious mind is like your operating system, or the unconscious system that is operating without your input. But when you apply your consciousness to it, when you look at it and decide, when you get into that intentional design space, it's like the overall operating system. And then the software is the automations. So, from that place of being the intentional architect, then you decide what thought patterns you want to run. You don't want the unconscious thoughts and feelings to be running the show. You want to consciously decide what you are going to think, feel, believe based on what's true for you now and not something that was just hardwired in the past that's not relevant anymore. So, of course, this is always an ongoing, evolving process, whether we're talking about your mind or the automations in your tech tools. But when the way you show up for creating automations inside your business or designing and delegating them to your operations person, you want to make sure that that is rooted in this automation mindset, I like to call it, that's connected with whatever you refer to, however you define and frame the part of you that gets into a creative, visionary, intentional design space. All that the tech's doing, all the tools are doing is making that more structured and automatically repeatable. But you start with whatever you decide is how you want it to be. I often find that people are so backwards with this. Like the people that don't love this process, it's because they have this have to, should relationship with their tech tools. And then they're like, okay, this is what this thing's gonna do. I need to make it do it. And they're kind of going backwards. They're going from what they have to do with the tech tool instead of flipping it and saying, what do I want to happen? And how can I then find the right tools to make this happen repeatably and reliably on my behalf so that I don't have to be showing up like a robot? We let the robots do the robot tasks. We are choosing to lean in manually first so that we can automate whatever it is that we build out and design manually. Adding that intentional structure, whether it's internally to your thoughts, belief systems, and then behaviors that flow from that, or in your business entity workflows, both back-end systems and customer experiences, delivery, onboarding, nurturing, all that good stuff. We're building structure around that design to help things go quicker, take less effort, free us, and flow even better than we could do having to manually show up for it when it's needed. Part of that freedom piece isn't just that it frees up your time, which it does. There's less that you end up having to spend, less time that you have to spend, less energy, less effort that you have to put toward that thing once you're able to set it and forget it to run it on autopilot. But there's also that it frees you from, I've been mentioning this bandwidth piece, from worrying or wondering if people are getting what they need when they need it, or if you're going to be able to show up when is needed manually to do things. This is how people make money in their sleep. This is how people feel taken care of inside of your containers. Whether you're busy with your family, resting, sick, on vacation, whatever it is, you don't have to be on all the time. That freedom is unprecedented. And it's the difference between the worrying and the wondering and the overwhelm and the burnout that happen when you don't have those systems in place. Often, people that have that resistance, it's so ironic. When they have the resistance to embracing the tech tools, they want to use them as little as possible, but that ends up taking so much more of them that they feel burnt out with those tasks are like the ways that you have to show up manually to run technology is so exhausting. That is what gets you to burn out with your tech. However, when you shift to this automation mindset and you just let them be tools that are extensions of what you design from your visionary space, it feels relatively effortless to be in relationship with your tech tools. Getting back to that metaphor with relationship, how exhausting are relationships where you're constantly having to come up against the tension of what's not working and the rub between you and another person, versus how much easier that relationship becomes when you pause the matrix, essentially, lean in, get intentional with each other, and rework the actual operating system and software that is supporting the ways that you show up for each other so that it becomes easier, flows better. I can't tell you the difference that this kind of work has made for my relationship. It went from, at some point, being more like there was this tension, this invisible tripwire that was always there to take us to a place that just felt exhausting when we would get there. We would just spiral and fall into it. Versus now, things just feel so clear. We've taken the time to go into those places so that now, if we do need to lean in and show up, there's not this backlog. There's just little tweaks that we need to make. It's so similar with your technology for your business. Similarly, with your tech, as a conscious, intentional relationship, you have regular check ins, but they're easier than waiting for the fires to put out or the blowouts. You create automations similar to how you create agreements of how you intend to show up when X, Y, or Z happens, when certain triggers arise, when certain things happen that end up being familiar. We've been there before. It's like, oh, well, the next time we're there, what do we want that to look like? How do we want to show up so that we know already? And we know that it's based on us having dropped in and decided what we actually want that to look like. Your automations are the same thing. Whether it's your tech or your relationships or your own growth edges, the love language of structure is the love language of sustainability and intentionality. Automation is structure with tech tools. If you are someone that doesn't love that space of intentional design translated into automation tools to make your life easier and your workflow more efficient, it's because you haven't been embracing the process in a way that is an extension or a projection of your own internal processes. Knowing yourself, knowing how this process works for you around your relationship to your growth, your own internal programming, being a conscious coder of you is the blueprint that you want to use to then lean out and into the tech systems to code, which we live in a world now where you do not need to be a coder. There are so many user-friendly tools that make it so easy as long as you come into it already really clear what your design is, what your vision is that you want to code and bring structure to through the tech tools. Once you get to this kind of relationship with it, it really does feel like the platforms that you choose, the tech tools that you use are part of your team, are like your coworkers, especially now that so many of them have AI agents that you can communicate with and talk to in layman's terms about exactly what your vision is for it to be put into that structure. It's an incredible time that we live in, and you either are going to continue to resist the direction that this is going or embrace it, go all in. It's like when you're on the edges and the periphery, it feels exhausting and you're probably not far from burnout at any given time, just holding it together. Versus when you decide to go all in and merge the potential with your own inner visionary space. That's where the visions become designs, become input to the tech tools because they just want to help and support us. At least right now, who knows? Maybe we'll get to a point where our agendas are at odds. But right now, the tech tools that are available, most of them have AI interfaces where they are like, how can I serve you? How can I help you? How can I make whatever you're working on right now even easier so that you can free up more of your time and energy for what really matters, both income generating inside of your business and in all of the other arenas that are important to you, that are the whole reason that you have this business to support. I'm so curious how this is landing for you, how this fits into wherever you currently at with your relationship with technology. I see this orientation, this perspective that I have as something that is just so obviously ingrained in me, but is so helpful to articulate for other people and make this connection so that you can stop resisting the tools, existing in tension with them where you'd rather not have to interact with them, to really embracing and integrating them into your idea of team and feeling like you are surrounded with support. They really are meant to make you feel even more supported, but you have to meet them halfway with this right relationship approach to order of operations. First, start with what you want in a totally layman's terms, totally creative space capacity. How do you want things to look? Then, how can you enlist AI tools to support you with that so that you don't have to think about it anymore? And it's just going to be serving and supporting that vision over and over and over again, even while you sleep.